Sometimes powerful forces sweep us in unexpected directions. And for me, and I think for a lot of people, these things can be very unsettling because we have a sense of control, a sense of understanding, a feeling that we we are in charge, that everything is okay, the world makes sense, and then something shifts or the assumptions that we have about our life fail. And for me, of course, that was when slowly over time my Christian belief structure crumbled on me. But it doesn't have to be that. Some people, their structure may be all about their family and how that's going to pan out, how their kids will grow up and where they will live. And then something happens. Maybe there's an illness or a tragedy. And there are a lot of ways that our belief structures can fall apart. Another example right now is just how a lot of the assumptions that I have had my whole life about the United States and what it is and how we behave, it just seems like all of that is crumbling. And talk about unsettling. It's not just that some peripheral thing is shifting. It's like a foundational piece of our life gets shifted. So these things happen to us uh, no matter what. I mean, life just throws these things at us. And the fundamental problem, the reason this happens is that we have confused the story that we tell about life with the foundation of life. For me, the assumption that I had, of course, was Christianity. And I chose Christianity because I have always been a person who wants to see beyond sort of the shallow, just the temporary. I mean, I get that it tastes great to eat ice cream. It's pleasurable to eat a hamburger. That's all great. Nothing against that. But in the like, what is the real meaning of life? Where is the substance of life? Why does it matter? These big questions have always haunted me, and Christianity provided for me a ready answer to that. And I, was like, this is great. Look, there's this faith with all these centuries of tradition, and other people have wrestled with these things. And so it's like a ready made answer. And I've always wanted to point to something deeper. When I thought that Christianity had all those answers, I couldn't help but be an evangelical because, I mean, I wanted everyone to experience the richness and depth of life and not just kind of scoot along on the surface. I've just kind of always been that way. But when that fell apart, that was a mess. The little poem I used to describe that, which I've quoted before, I was a preacher, a professor, a God-splainer, a rock. Then my high pulpit crumbled. I thought I would land, but just kept falling. So I traded my firm foundation for a set of wings and made my home on a rush of wind. For me, transitioning out of that story-based foundation has not been about finding a new story. It's been about discovering a way to live without a story. I call it life beyond belief because the belief is, for me, an expression of my humanity, not the foundation. The foundation is deeper. Now, finding that has not been easy. So when I was back in church, there was a leader that I liked a lot named John Maxwell. Maybe you've heard of him. He wrote a lot of books on leadership. But one of the things he said that I liked was he said, a leader knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. Well, I kind of thought I had all three of those going. I guess I did for a decade or two, but I knew the way. It was the Christian faith. And I was following that path, and I was showing others how to follow that path. When that was gone, I did not know the way. How could I show the way or go the way, right? And that's why for what, 5, 6 years, I just went completely dark, completely silent, because I just needed to step back and say, I don't know anything. I mean, and I need to find out a way. I don't know the way. I have to find a way. That took about 7 years. And really around the time 2020, about COVID years, that's when what I'm sharing with you now, this way of life I call facing up, came into focus. And I saw that, and there was a part of me that just wanted to rush out and share. Oh, look at this. Here's a way to look at life and embrace it that doesn't require a belief system, or it doesn't lean on, it doesn't rest on a belief system. But I realized I may see this, I know the way, but I'm not going the way. I haven't walked in this at all. And so for the past 5 years or so, I have been going the way, and it has proven true. And I think I'm finally to the place, and that's why I'm, making noise every week to show this for people who may be in a place where they are looking for a way of life when the story crumbles. Facing up is a way of life to help hurting people help move through their pain and discover meaningful, authentic life. That's what it's about. Now, okay, know the way, go the way, show the way. My problem with showing the way has been that I have been thinking about this for 12 years. And I mean like hours, literally, every morning, journaling, trying to look at all of this from every angle, checking things, making sure I was being honest with myself. So it's taken a long time, and I have a lot of ways of looking at this, and I have a whole universe, I guess you could say, of observations to share. And I want you to see it from every angle. I just want to dump the whole thing on you. And I know that that's not how you show somebody something. And for you to try this on, to see if it makes sense to you, I need to be able to give incremental steps. And so that's what I want to try to do these next 3 weeks. I've already done this. I've talked about the 3 movements, but what I would like to do is focus in on each one for the next 3 weeks. So today will be the first movement, which is the movement from, and I'll explain these words, from Inyarus to wonder and on to adventure. And then next week, I'll talk about the second movement, which is Vanitas to acceptance and then to play. And then in 3 weeks, I'll talk about the third movement, which is from Rapax to compassion to kindness. And I want to give you not just an explanation, but a practical thing to do. Something I do every morning now, and it's just a short breathing exercise that I do. It's 5 minutes, and I try to actually practice it throughout the day. I'll explain what that's all about as we go through. What I discovered when I began to look at life honestly is that there were 3 specters. And a specter is like a ghost or a phantom, or these dark forces. It's what I felt. It's hard for me to it's hard to put it into words, because I don't actually see a ghost, right? I'm not seeing these things, but I'm telling you that there were 3 just no's to life, 3 dark no's that came into my life when my faith system crumbled, that just ruined everything. And they were the Inyarus, the fact that I don't know. I just don't know. Vanitas, the fact that I can't ever reach a happy ending. And Rapax, the fact that it's a dog-eat-dog world. As much as we want to emphasize love and dream of a world where everything is just, in harmony with every other thing, and we're just tiptoeing through the tulips. Man, have you ever seen a lion take down a wildebeest? I mean, that's like, what? Who made that up? So anyway, there's Inyarus, Vanitas, and Rapax. So there are these 3 questions which I consider to be sort of like fundamental. Um, Everybody has these issues in their lives, and we have different ways of dealing with it. The most common way is to avoid them, in the language of some of my previous videos, escape to the devil's playground, but to do things to try just not to think about this. Facing up means facing the fact that we are lost, that we are longing, and that we are lonely. That's another way to say Ignarus, Vanitas, and Rapax. Lost, longing, lonely. And those are like three fundamental human needs that we all have. The need for meaning. So if I'm lost, how can there be any meaning, right? The need for motivation to do, the drive to get up and fight another day. Well, how can there be any motive if everything's in vain? And the need for belonging. And here we struggle because we're lonely, and Rapax makes fitting in and being a part very difficult. So today we're going to look at the three movements. Today we're going to look at the first movement, just that. But over the next 3 weeks, we will look at all three movements. And these are a way to experience meaningful, authentic existence. These dark specters, each one opens a door to a deeply meaningful way to live. And that's what I hope I can show you over the next 3 weeks, and not just show the way here, but help you take a first step to go the way, so that you can have an exercise to sort of start letting these things sink in and practice them. On to Ignarus. The first movement is the honest response to the fact that we are lost, Ignarus. So and with all of these movements, we start by facing up, facing a hard fact. We need life to have meaning, but how can life have any meaning if we don't know the meaning of life? If we don't know how we got here, or where we're going, or what the point is, or what happens when we die? All these big questions, we don't have answers. And so, that's hard. Ignarus, ignorance, reveals the fact that we're lost. The analogy that I always come back to is the television show Lost, where they wake up on this island. They don't know how they got there. There's this weird thing. They were on a plane, and they're not sure if help is coming, and it's a mysterious island. And what do we make of this place? Here we are on this tiny blue ball, and with nothing but mysteries, all kinds of things. And the closer we look, the stranger things get, from the quantum level to the big, huge level, and multiple dimensions. And I could go on, but we are genuinely lost. I like Neil deGrasse Tyson. He, to me, embodies this honest view that we are lost. He just recently did some work with William Shatner, Captain Kirk, and they're, just saying, wow, this world is way more mysteries than answers. So we're lost. Okay, so what do you do in the face of that? Well, here's the fork in the road. When you realize that, it throws you into nihilism. What can be the point? And so the temptation is to create some sort of reason. And I think you could put the word blasphemy here, because you have to almost pretend to be God, or at least to know God, or to have some sort of heavenly, divine insight that pretend to know somehow. And that knowledge becomes the foundation of your life, your dogma. And then you might call it faith, or you might call it something a little bit less intense than dogma. But the reality is that your life is built on this story that you've told. And it may be really complicated and philosophical, or it could be as simple as your dogma about your country, your dogma about your family, even as silly as my dogma today about how the day should go and how people should treat me, about who I am. And so I have these beliefs and I base my life on them. But the problem is we run back into Inyarus, who's always undermining these stories, which, if we choose nihilism, where you're like, oh, I can't live with that, so we reinforce the dogma, and around we go over here. It's dark, it's gray because of the reason that it's really not a good way to live. But there is a choice. In the face of lostness, I can look at this world, fully face that I am lost, and say, wow, what an amazing place. Let's go on an adventure. Let's go exploring. Let's try to figure this out. That doesn't solve anything. I still am facing Inyarus, but when I face Inyarus, it just reminds me that I need to open my heart and my soul up to the wonder of the world and continue on the adventure. So this is the first movement right here. In the face of Inyarus, I choose wonder and set out on an adventure. Here's a contrast of these two lives. If I'm leading a life of nihilism and dogma, then I'm viewing my dogma as the foundation of my life. But over here, if I'm living a life of wonder and adventure, then my adventure is an expression of life, not a foundation. I'm still having an adventure. I'm still doing things. I still may pursue a very similar path in life. I want to become a banker, or I want to a musician, or whatever you want to become. But I'm off on this adventure, which is now an expression of my life. I'm not trying to make it the foundation. Another way to say that is I'm walking not by faith or my beliefs, but by sight. I look at this world, I take it as it really is, and I put what I perceive to be the world that I live in. I don't put the world that I imagine and try to, cram the world that I see into the world that I imagine. Instead, I take the world that I see and I just let that be, grow. And down here, I'm getting ahead of myself, but see this rigid and flexible? Faith tends to be kind of rigid because I have this firm foundation that I'm standing on. And so like if I got to keep it firm. But over here, if I'm living by sight, that's flexible. As I see more, I can change what I think about the world. For example, if I think that everything revolves around the earth, and that's my dogma, then when evidence comes out to the contrary, like in the Copernican revolution, I have to keep holding on to that because I have this dogma that the earth is the center of the universe. But if I'm living my life based on sight, then I can be flexible. And that can, the story I tell, the world I encounter can shift based on what I see. I hope you're seeing the difference there. And that really shows this other contrast here, apologetics. So in the realm of dogma, then I have to defend what I believe, apologetics, or if I'm living by sight, it's just investigations. I'm out to learn more, grow, and expand. One other thing about the world of dogma is that it tends to be institutional. There aren't too many people who say, my dogma, my personal dogma, that is, the foundation of my life. Normally, people will put their trust in something that has been institutionalized, whether in a religion or society, whatever. But this over here can be much more personal. It's a personal expression of my wonder at life, and I set out on my adventure and I ask, well, who am I? What are my gifts? What are my strengths? What do I want to emphasize and explore and develop? So I'm not following some script over here that says, this is how you should look. I'm looking at myself and saying, who am I? How shall I express that? I've already used the word blasphemy over here. I know it's a strong word, but come on now, when you're living in a world where you're saying that I know what's going on, and in other words, you're kind of just saying, I'm not lost. I know. I I have this faith, or I have this thing, God revealed it to me, or I'm really smart, or whatever your dogma is. When you're over here, you're really assuming the place of God. You're saying, you are the one who creates this world. You recreate this world of dogma. And that's true of every religion and every country and every belief that humans have. It's not that those things are necessarily bad. They're only bad when we act as if we are God and what we say is what is, capital I. This is reality over here. So I think that's fair to call that blasphemy, sitting in the place of God. And over here, worship, where you're looking at this world and you have questions and you're in awe. And you're not God. One thing for sure, you're not God. This is amazing. And so you have, your soul is just filled with awe, and you're drawn to worship. To personify this in two people, the Joker would be a great example of someone who just leans into the nihilism and says, you know what, you guys and your dogma are just ridiculous, so life is meaningless, so I'm just going to blow up every dogma. Whether it's the dogma of money, or the dogma of the police department, or the dogma of your love affair, there's no meaning because we don't know. That's the Joker over there. And to me, a great example of wonder and adventure would be John Muir, the great naturalist, the founder of the Sierra Club. John Muir, if you've ever read anything he wrote, it's just filled with wonder. And he's off on adventure of exploration, and he's trying to explain, how the Sierras were formed by glaciers, or describing bushes and trees. And I mean, he's just like soaking it all in, sight, investigating. It's flexible, it's personal, it's worshipful. And to me, that's living over here in this world of wonder and adventure. Now, the way to practice this, as you can see, I practice this first movement on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And here's the summary. You're lost. You can escape nihilism by turning to dogma, or you can live in wonder and embrace the adventures you choose. The breathing method for the first movement goes like this. You start with breathlessness, and I call that the pause, but when you exhale and you just sort of stop, and if you pause too long, you're going to start panicking, and you have to inhale. But it's that emptiness, it's that moment. That to me is how I internalize the specter. So in Yarus, I don't know, I'm lost. There's this, what do I do? What do I do? And the response, the choice is to choose wonder. I'm lost, but wow, I choose wonder. And then I exhale, adventure. So in Yarus, wonder, adventure. And I actually set a 5-minute timer on my phone, and I just make myself do that 5 minutes. Sometimes it's just so rich, I just keep going. Sometimes 5 minutes is enough. Sometimes I write those 3 things on my hand. I just write an I and a W and an A, in Yarus, Wonder, Adventure. And I just remind myself throughout the day, when life seems strange or isn't making sense, to just wonder, adventure. And then one other thing that I do that it's just to kind of show the alternative and to remind myself of the emptiness of the other way. I'll get to that empty point in Yarus, and I'll go like, nihilism, dogma, nihilism, dogma. So that, like, short, choppy breaths, inadequate, stressed, nihilism, dogma, nihilism, dogma, nihilism, dogma, instead of wonder, adventure. Because a life where I'm trying to build a foundational story to live in, a dogma to defend or explain or justify my life and then stand on it, that is a stressful life. So I just remind myself that if I'm running from nihilism and solving it with dogma, it's just nihilism, dogma. So 5 minutes, just wonder, adventure. And you might look at the little set of alternatives that I put there, and maybe you will find other words that are meaningful to you, better than wonder and adventure. Or maybe you'll come up with your own set of contrasts that I've been sharing. Make it yours. Make it yours. But the point is that we're trying to deal with this fundamental need for meaning, and we're not trying to pretend that we're God and have answers. We are fully embracing that we do not know. We are lost, but wow, and let's go on an adventure.